just to showcase some of the individuals. Okay, so a little bit about our agency. It was founded in 1980 by Carolyn Beaver. It was originally named Special Services for Special People. That name changed in 2007. And our agency started out very much like other agencies across the province, where it was a small day support program, so just like a grassroots program. And then it progressed to expand across the board. Some interesting facts about our agency is that we're the first community living agency to be established on reserve or on a First Nations community. There is another community living agency, which is found in Wikwemekong. And I really feel, and I talk about this to a lot of presentations that I make, is that Six Nations is a trailblazer for other First Nations communities in Ontario, across Canada, and even worldwide. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. The next slide is about support services, and I'm going to let Joel take over for this slide. He's going to give you a little bit of rundown about what we do in Six Nations.
I first want to start off just by talking about the end part of our name. It looks like Ronatahskats, but in Mohawk, it is Ronatahskats. So the R is pronounced like an L, so it's Ronatahskats. And we're kind of proud of that as well, because the end part of our name in Mohawk, they are beautiful. It's sort of the best translation that we can come up with. So part of our services, we have currently a one day program, which is during COVID has been a little bit challenging. And normally we have anywhere from 18 to 25 people attend our program. So we do a lot of exciting things. What we've learned from COVID is we don't want to be in the program. We want to be out in the community. We want to be out doing activities. So the day program now has kind of turned into a hub. It's the meeting center of what we're going to do for the day. We choose activities. We have 4 day program staff, and they choose the activities depending on what the individuals in service want to do. So if they want to go bowling, one of the staff will go bowling, and they would ask the group who wants to go bowling. So that's sort of how our day program has been running since COVID. So it's changed and we're enjoying it, and I think we're going to keep it that way. We have one group home with 3 individuals that live there, 3 males, and it's 24-hour support, except our day program, our group home guys will come to the day program during the day and participate in the activities. In our group home, we have one room which we use for respite, which during COVID has been closed. And we hope to open that up because we have a lot of individuals in the community that are using the respite. It gives families a break. They feel confident that they're getting supported because they're in the group home and there's 24-hour support. We also have an apartment program. It's supportive independent living program where we have a building that is like an apartment. It has 4 separate areas for individuals, and they live independently. So they receive support by a SIL staff, which also works in another area. We have 5 individual houses. So those people live independently in their homes, and they are supported by the SIL staff. So part of my job is community inclusion. Community inclusion has to do with everything to do with the community, working in the community, participating, volunteering, doing presentations in the community. So it's part of the community inclusion position. And at one time we did have a gift shop where we weren't in the business to sell gifts. We were there to teach individuals how to work in the gift shop, how to use the cash, how to clean. So everything to do with working in the community, we would do up there. So that's part of our employment supports. Our goal is to find paid employment in the community. Once again, during COVID, we've lost a lot of our positions, and we hope that they're still there when we feel comfortable with getting our guys to return to work. And we try to place people in our community because of transportation problems. But we also place people in Brantford, and we integrate our day program and transportation with the staff in the day program to get people to work. So we do have an individual who is not working right now, but has been working at Harvey's for over 10 years. So it's a long going program. The employment part of the job is also integrated into the day program, and we have a number of people that are working in the community, and hopefully they will return.
Okay, so I just wanted to expand on a couple things from the support services slide, was just the fact that for anybody that doesn't know where we're located and doesn't know what we operate like, we're a small, I wouldn't say we're the small, but we're one of the largest First Nation communities. And so, but in our area, everything is centrally located. So the administration building is in one location. The group home is just behind us, and all the SIL homes are near us. So we're all centrally located. So we're all in one area. It'd be very different in the city where group homes could be across town or what have you, but everything is right there. And we can basically walk to the group home from the admin building. So that's a bit of a nice feature. So this next slide, which says mandated philosophy. So we support band members only with an intellectual disability, 18 years and older. And when I reference band members, our mandate was very specific due to the funding, that we support individuals that are from our community that are registered with our band of First Nations people. So I get lots of different phone calls across the province looking for support for individuals from other First Nation communities, but at this time, due to the limitations of funding, we can't provide those services. Our philosophy is always to add value to the lives of the people supported. I think that maybe when one of the opening speeches came out, there was a bit of a line to that effect. And whenever we are talking with staff about situations, we're always, the question or the answer is always, how do we add value to the lives of those people? We do have long-term goals of expansion. On this slide, I have said that we are going to accomplish that in the next 1 to 5 years. That's very ambitious, that comment. We'd be looking more at like the next 5 to 15 years to continue expansion. So I always like to outline some of the great things that the agency is doing, because people just don't know what's going on, and we get so busy doing things that it's nice to outline what we've done. I know it's probably a little bit small on your screen, but we've obtained additional funding over the last few years. We have I think we have 3 rounds of full compliance, I think. We've done agency presentations at international and provincial conferences. We've hosted international visitors from around the world, and we have placement students from Fanshawe College and Grand River Employment and Training, which is located in our community. So I just wanted to highlight that we have presented in Iceland. We have presented in Thunder Bay. We have had visitors to the agency from Australia. So a lot of people are wondering what's going on there, and how are you incorporating culture for First Nations individuals? Which brings me to my next slide. Trailblazer for First Nations. So the main question is, how do we incorporate culture into our programming? And I'll let Joel speak to that in a minute. And like I mentioned earlier, I get numerous calls from other First Nation community or other communities asking about how our agency supporting other clients from other First Nations communities. And I just don't have the financial means to do that at this time. And another question that I get asked a lot about other communities is, how do they establish or start services within a First Nations community? And, I basically go over the, how we started, how it was grassroots, how it started in a rental, how you had volunteer staff. So I go over a lot of that piece with other First Nation communities. But one of the main questions, and not really the purpose of this call, but how do we incorporate culture? And I'm going to let Joel speak to that because he's had a lot of input. He's had a lot of he's been at the agency when things have happened. So I'm hoping that he can speak to that piece.
Yeah, so when people ask me about what's special about Community Living Six Nations, most community living started in a church, in a basement with family. And I believe Community Living Six Nations started the same way. So we didn't recreate the wheel. We have group homes and we have day programs and we have employment supports. But what makes our agency special is that we have hired a cultural coordinator, and that happened a few years ago now. And COVID has sort of caused problems with my brain that I can't remember how many years it's been, but I think it's about 5 years now that we hired a cultural coordinator. And we try to hire somebody from the community, and we interview them according to their cultural knowledge. If they have language skills, arts and crafts related to Six Nations. Currently, during COVID, we didn't have people attending the program. So the way we kept in touch with our individuals in the community was we created packages, stories, beadwork that we could send to individuals, and we drove them to their houses. So this happened on a weekly basis, and it kept us in touch with the families, and we were able to see everybody. And it's something that's kept us attached to the people in the community. And we didn't see people for 2 years because we totally isolated our guys from our residential programs from the people in the community. So this kept us in touch with everyone. And the programs were cultural programs, beadwork. We had a online way to show people what they were doing, and that happened on a weekly basis. So anywhere from 18 to 25 people were receiving these packages, and meeting our staff and seeing them every week and participating in the cultural program. So another part of that is we rent one of our areas in our building to a language program. And we've had 2 groups now come through who are not with us. They're just renting a building and they're learning their language. So we started with the Mohawk language program, and they participate in our program by, first of all, they're learning their language again. And then they come to our program to speak the language and practice what they've learned with an audience who's actually not very critical and very interested in hearing the language. They also learn songs, which helps them remember the language that way. And they would come and sing to us and we would dance. So it was a very good partnership. So we're currently working with the Onondaga language program right now. And once again, our area has been closed down, and we hope that they return soon. And we will have the Onondaga language program with us once again. So in this slide, you see us again, all the things we're doing, karaoke. Of course, we played some hockey out in the front area. And in the middle picture is us in the Santa Claus parade. So we participate in the Six Nations Santa Claus parade every year, and best float wins money. And we've won one year. We came third one year, and we hope to win this year.
So I believe I saw a question in the chat, and I think that's great that somebody mentioned that we should put questions there. So that's good. So I did read it. And the question basically was, how do workers who support individuals with First Nations background off reserve, how do you help them to remain connected or even initially connect with their culture and First Nations community? And this is a great question. We get asked this a lot, even from surrounding communities of the reserve here where we live. And one of the things that we've done, which I don't know if it's possible for you to do, but one of the things that we've done is that when there are individuals who live off reserve that are getting support services off reserve, and we have different things happening at the agency, we have always invited them, and they've always been welcome to come join our program and come see what's happening, participate. And we really encouraged it during culture days. We used to have culture days back in the day when COVID had not hit. And we used to do culture days once a month. It was great. And so we'd have visitors from surrounding communities, surrounding agencies that would come and visit and bring their individual. And that was one of the ways they got connected. So I don't know if that helps your question. I don't know where you're located. I don't know if you have that opportunity. I guess it would be difficult if they don't have a community living there. One of the other ways, and I'll speak to it in my next part of the presentation about land acknowledgements, is that you can always connect with a First Nations community through their chief and council, their traditional council, and they could help connect you with either elders or services within the community, or just volunteers that are willing to come in and do some programming. Because I know there's wonderful people located across the province that know beading, no language, no stories, no history, and would love to be invited to agencies to kind of do some work with individuals. So I'm thinking it's about getting connected with communities surrounding you, and just knocking on doors, making calls, see if you can connect with the right person to get you connected. I don't know if there's other question in there. Hold on, let me pop in there. The next question is, what supports are available for individuals under 18? And, oh, thanks. So in our community, we have a lot of different services that are available. We have programs under the social services and health services umbrella, I will say. So there is a lot of support services for individuals that are under 18. And one of the things I think that most communities are getting more of a handle on is the transitional age youth. So the youth that are coming up the pipeline and eventually will age out and go into adult services. So that's something also that the community is looking at as well. So there are services in the community. I think there's another comment in here. Sorry to.
So sorry to interrupt. So if we want to ask anything, we have to type it under the chat thing.
Oh no, I think you can open up. I think it was just one of the suggestions while we were speaking, so you didn't lose the question. But if you'd like to ask something, you're welcome to speak.
Yeah, I have a question. Can I ask it right now?
Sure.
Okay. So most people that are Indigenous or whatever, do they prefer Indigenous workers to take care of them, or are they okay with different people taking care of them?
Well, I think that it comes down to personal preference of the individual. And I would think that I'm going to even speak about my own agency. I don't have a full complement of First Nations staff members. So I have non-Indigenous and Indigenous workers. And so I think it comes down to personal preference of the individual, what they feel comfortable with.
Oh, okay. And sometimes it might be hard. It'd be hard to find them a worker that's Indigenous in some locations, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And because the sector is so short-staffed, I think sometimes individuals don't get much of a choice as well.
Yeah, that sucks, especially if it's not working out between them.
I think Joel was going to make a comment. Were you, Joel? Yep. And I cut you off?
We have a training program here for individuals just graduating from high school, and they attend that program where they learn how to do resume skills, interview skills, and then they are given opportunities to work at different jobs in the community. And we get a lot of people from that program. It's the program's called Great, and they will have a tour of our agency. And if people who are interested in working with people with challenges, they can request to come to us. They're paid through Great, and they work with us with a full-time staff as a shadow, and they learn the job. And our goal is, exposure. We expose the community to what we're doing here, and hopefully they fall in love with this position. And we have a connection with Fanshawe College because it's in Simcoe, which is very close to us, where they can get their DSW very quickly, do their placement with us, and hopefully we can hire them. So we've had a number of people go through that route, and it produces community staff. And a lot of the times, we are such a small community, the individuals in service will already know those people.
Where are you guys located?
We're located in Six Nations,
Oh, okay.
which is between Brantford, Caledonia, and Hamilton.
Oh, okay, I see. Thank you.
Yeah, so that program has been very successful, and we're proud of the people that's come through that program and end up working with us and actually get full-time jobs.
I'm gonna interrupt Joel. There's a couple good comments in the chat. One from Megan about talking to elders in a human library and guest speakers. I think that's a wonderful comment and a wonderful idea. Tracy has made a comment that they are located close to Wikimakong, and if you would like, I have a contact for you, someone that I've been talking with there. So if you're interested, you can let me know or let Tolly know, and we can get in touch and I can help you with that. That's not an issue at all. So I think the next part of the presentation is my next PowerPoint. So originally, when I got asked to participate in this conference this day, the initial topic was about land acknowledgement. So that's the reason why we initially got connected. And so I'll do a brief run through my PowerPoint. And then if there's any questions about the agency or about land acknowledgements or support, we're open to answer those. So the next slide. So I just want to reiterate to everyone on the call that for this purpose of this presentation, this is strictly my perspective, okay? So I'm from the Six Nations of the Grand River. I'm Cayuga Nation Wolf Clan. And when I'm in my territory, I refer to my nation of people as Iroquois, Haudenosaunee, or Ongwahole people. But when I'm doing this presentation and I'm referring to people of Native American descent, I'll refer to them as First Nations people. And that's what I feel comfortable doing in this discussion. And I want to remind everybody that this is not all inclusive to everybody born of this descent. So they may feel comfortably being referred to as another name, such as Indigenous, Native American, Native. It just depends on the individual. But for the purposes of this presentation, I'll refer to them as First Nations people. And you may, if you are involved in a land acknowledgement process, I would just like you to be aware of that as you start to build statements. And I wanted to make one more comment. I know, I'm not sure if people can really see the slides, if they're small on their screen or if they're big, I'm not sure. But when I prepared this presentation, this was for a regional table that I sit at. And so some of the dialogue or some of the comments on there might not be specific to this group, but I thought it was a good starting point. Okay, next slide. So the importance, so why do we do land acknowledgements? This is one of the key questions that I get asked all the time. And there's a bolded statement on the screen that I'll read to you because I think it was the most appropriate definition that I could find or reasoning. It is important because it commemorates First Nations people's principal kinship to the land and is a stepping stone to honoring broken treaty relationships. I saw that somewhere and it really resonated with me. So I put that in the presentation. I've been sharing it across the province. And when I got asked to do this presentation at the regional table, the directors that were at that table asked me, what is the importance of the statement, understanding that it's more than just words on a page or that you're being mandated to read it. Also, there could be mixed views of a land acknowledgement and the purpose of it from a First Nations perspective. So, First Nations people may find it to be something that's not truthful or something that's not appropriate, and some may find that it is a great thing. So, there's just different views of what land acknowledgements are, just so you're aware. So how do you get started is the next slide. So if you were involved in a land acknowledgement process or you had to start it, I'm not sure if that's something that you'd be involved in, but here's some good tips. You must keep an open mind because this is an opportunity to learn, relearn, and possibly unlearn some things that you may have learned in your early years. In early discussion, it may make people feel uncomfortable because it can get tense at times. If you're not directly involved, I would suggest that if you were overseeing it to just check in with everybody to see how they're feeling about everything. If you're not sure how to start, I would suggest that you get a general statement from another agency and then you can edit the statement to your liking or your surrounding. And once you have a starting point, I would encourage you to reach out to possible contacts within the local First Nations community that surrounds you. The next slide says, who can you reach out to? You can reach out to other communities surrounding you. You can do this through elected band council office or traditional council, or sometimes there's friendship centers across the province or a native department of college or universities. I'm not sure if that's what they call them, but that's what they called it when I went. It's important that your statement reflect your area of business. If there's no local First Nations community, you could use more of a general statement. And if the meeting's taking place virtually, you could also use a general statement as well that kind of blankets the whole area that's meeting that day. Okay, the next slide is, now that you said it, what's next? You want the statement to be meaningful and you have to figure out what comes next. What will your agency or what will you do once the statement is read? How do you show your actions and prove that you take it serious? How will you walk the talk? And I give some examples here to the regional table about what to do. It's not just a statement or words on a page. So there's diversity training that people can be taking, incorporating educational pieces into your daily life, recruiting and hiring more staff with diverse backgrounds, ensure at the board level that you have a group with diverse backgrounds as well. So those are just some of the suggestions. The next page talks about resources. So you can obtain statements from other agencies and you can help alter to capture what's important in your area. You can contact other executive directors who've gone through this process. You can search Truth and Reconciliation. You can contact various universities for diversity training or sensitivity training. And also the Woodland Culture Center, which is located in Brantford, they provide virtual tours of an actual residential school and they have educational sessions. So if you're ever interested, you could just search Woodland Culture Center and you can do that all virtually if you're interested. My next slide is Every Child Matters. I always try to include this in a presentation when I get a group of people because I think it's wonderful awareness and information. And so September 30th is the new Federal Day of Reflection, National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. I urge you to recognize this day in your life and understand the importance of the awareness. I want to just make a comment about how I was impacted when the graves were found at various residential schools across the country. As a First Nation person who lives directly on a reserve, I do recognize intergenerational trauma that's been passed down that these schools have caused. And I felt it was important to share my message across the various tables. And so the question I have for you is, how will you recognize the day and begin learning? You don't have to answer that. So that's the end of my presentation, Nyawa, for your time. So I guess it's we can open the floor for questions. Obviously, you're welcome to put it in the chat or you can unmute yourself if you'd like. Casey has a question. Is it important that it be written by the business owner, corporation, or institution? She was under the understanding that it be written in collaboration with First Nations people. And so I think I mentioned that in my presentation is that you can always get a statement that's a general statement, and then you can build from it by meeting with other people near you that are First Nations descent or from a community. and then you can alter it in something that's respectful to all.
Just like to add that I think it's very important to learn the correct words as well that you're going to use. So it needs to be sincere. It needs to be respectful. And then when using words, I've actually participated in some meetings where they had land acknowledgement and could not pronounce the words that they were using. So I understand it's very difficult that even the word Haudenosaunee is challenging when you see it written, and when people are doing land acknowledgements and are saying Hodi Hasodi, or not saying the word properly. It touches my heart to say, I'm not really sure if they're sincere about it. So it's important to learn the proper wording depending on which territory that you're speaking of.
I think what my question was, sorry, it's Cassie again. I think what my question was is that I was under the understanding that if everyone was to access the First Nations people in their area and write their land acknowledgement by by talking to those people and making sure that they were in an understanding of how the treaty was broken and everything. But that could just be my naivety in thinking that and hoping that that's what's happening. And maybe in the real life that isn't in my dream world, that people are just writing a land acknowledgement and they aren't really caring about that. So I think that's what my question was. I was trying to clarify that I thought it was important that we access the people in the community that we're writing this land acknowledgement about.
I think that's a wonderful comment. And I do fully agree with you that across the province, across the country, that there are statements that are just developed and kind of done, and not a lot of thought has been put into them, and they're just kind of saying it because they're mandated to say it. So my presentation is to try to remind people that we want, we know that you're mandated to say it, but we want it to mean more, and we want to see what the agencies are willing to do after it's said. And so you are absolutely correct. That's why I encourage you to reach out to First Nation communities to get their input, get their involvement, and make it respectful across the board to everybody in that area, especially when you're supporting individuals of that descent. And so I think that's a wonderful comment. I think you're definitely right in what you said.
Stephanie, I wonder, could you talk a little bit about some of the ways to support individuals off reserve? What should we know if there are people, First Nations and Indigenous individuals that we are supporting off reserve? How can we support that cultural need?
But if there is a First Nations community surrounding you, that would be your first place to get in contact with, to see if there's some programming there. There's some elders, some individuals that are willing to come and do some programming, different things like that. I don't know if you're in an area that you have that. Also, the technology with Zoom is wonderful. So, if there's places where you're not near a First Nations community, but you want to get in touch with some programming, Zoom is a wonderful thing. You don't even need to be next door to a community to get some of those resources. So those are some of the things. I don't know where you're located, so I don't know if you have access to somebody or connections, but maybe that's something that I can follow up with you after. If you
resources, I just wondered if you had any other resources that students could put their hands on. Are there websites where you found that the information is accurate and viable? Are there books and readings that perhaps we can recommend to students to assist them in advancing their knowledge in this area?
Yes, so I think that there's a lot of wonderful opportunities out there and a lot of literature out there to help anyone get a bit more information. So there's and I've shared different things on our platform about, what do you do on September 30? Like, what are some options that you would do? So some of the things are like, well, purchase a book from an Indigenous author or about an Indigenous topic. And, so there are lots of different resources like that.
And just to touch on what Stephanie said about Zoom is on a normal day, we have a calendar of activities, which will include our cultural days if we're having singers or dancers attend. So if we're able to give a contact where we can send an email out to students where we are going to have dancers in, we can set up a Zoom session where they're seeing what we're actually doing on site and how our individuals in service participate, because it's really quite amazing. We have many people who come to see our agency, and when they do, we invite people to come and sing and dance, and our individuals participate and sing and dance, and people are very surprised to see how much our guys have learned just from the cultural program that we're providing. So this would give other people, even in Northern Ontario, a chance to see what we're doing here just by Zoom.
Great. And also I wanted to make two comments. My first comment is about just bouncing off what Joel was saying, but the other comment is about smudging. So my first comment is that sometimes when we had culture days, you know, you come in and you see everybody dancing or singing or whatever the case may be, and this is a really big thing. You might even see the executive director out there dancing. if I can get away from a meeting or a call and I can pop in for a dance, you might even see me go around the room. So it's just one of those things where everybody's involved and everybody's learning and everybody's relearning, and it's just having fun essentially. My other comment about smudging, because I get asked this question from time to time, is that I had got asked, what about individuals off reserve that would like to be smudged or participate in smudging? And my comment to them was, because I think what the agency was thinking that they could teach their staff to do it and that it would be easy and all that sort of thing. And I said, it's really not respectful to do that. And one of the things I suggested was have somebody come in and do that for that individual, or to teach that individual how to do it themselves. And then the staff would support that. So I don't know if that's clear to everybody on the call, and I'm not sure if that's a concern of anybody, but that's one of the questions that I've got asked in my time. And so I said that either having someone come in to do it from a First Nations descent, or training that or teaching that individual that has that descent to do it themselves with the support of staff, obviously. So I don't know if that's a question that someone may or may not have had, but I've been asked that before.
And Stephanie, just to expand on that, can you just tell us what the purpose of smudging, or what smudging is?
Yeah, I can only speak about my perspective. I'm not trying to speak for all First Nations people across the country, because we're not all the same descendant or background. So I'm Iroquois, and so you might get someone that's Anishinaabe or Ojibwe. So they're different backgrounds. So I can only speak to what I know. And there may be different views out there. So just be aware of that. I always like to give that disclaimer at the beginning. But a smudge would just be to cleanse yourself, to clean yourself off, to create that good mind, that good space, that clear mind. Just get anything that you're carrying that's negative energy off your body, off your mind, some stuff that you're carrying like that. So that's usually what smudging is used for. And I'm not sure if I don't know if I'm just speaking in terms that everybody ought to have known, but what they would be using for smudging would be like sage, and they would be burning the end, and it would be like producing a smoke, and then you'd use the smoke to clear yourself off, for example. I don't know if everybody knows what that is, but that's an example of it.
Thank you.
Taking that further, Stephanie, could you perhaps just give a quick kind of explanation of the wheel, of the medicine wheel?
Sure. And I don't know, Joel, I guess I'd have to look at the logo in color. I don't know if there's a bit of medicine wheel in our logo. I think maybe the coloring's there, Joel. Is that correct?
Yeah, there should be.
Yeah. Oh, Joel's got the colors on his chest there on the sweater that he's wearing. So yeah, the medicine wheel and I don't really want to speak too much into it, but there's the 4 colors that are on there. I'm trying to look at Joel's medicine wheel as on his chest as we see, but there'd be black, white, yellow, and red, and that would represent the various colors of people across the nation. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's a little bit how it's incorporated into our logo as well.
Perfect. I was intrigued by your logo. Maybe you could just do an explanation of the logo.
Yeah, so I think the logo explanation is actually on the website. I could be wrong. I'm not sure. But if I look at Joel's logo, there is an eagle in the top corner, and there is a little spot where there's houses, which would represent the individuals themselves in the top corner. And then there is the bottom corner that kind of has trees and like a river. I'm not sure if people have ever seen our logo, but I don't really want to get you to go to my website because it is so outdated. But that is where you would definitely see the logo. Also, we're on Facebook as well. So I'm not sure if that's a spot that people could check out as well.
There's also the turtle. The main turtle is turtle for Turtle Island. So all the other symbols are on the back of the turtle, and that represents the land.
So I did find the explanation. Sorry, Joel, to interrupt you. So it says our logo was designed by the Paulus family. The turtle represents Mother Earth living together in the circle of life. The eagle protects all living on Mother Earth, which is in the top left. And then on the top right, the people is living amongst all, helping one another. The bottom left is the house is like the longhouse. It represents community, homes, work, and all that the community involves. And then the bottom right hand is the river, is 6 nations along the Grand River. And the 4 colors represent the medicine wheel and the human race. Haudenosaunee is the people of the longhouse. So there you go. That's the definition or the explanation of the logo.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Are there any other questions before we say goodbye to Joel and Stephanie?
Hi, I just have a comment. This is Kathy Hansen from St. Clair College. I'm a faculty there. And thank you, Stephanie and Joel, for telling us about this community living program. I'm very intrigued by it. I was really trying to incorporate some Indigenous health into my, I teach the health course to our DSW students. And I'm just throwing this out there for other faculty. Maybe I'm really behind the 8 ball here, but I felt that it was beyond time to do that. And I was very pleased with the reception that I got from a couple of different speakers. And they did a session on the medicine wheel and the meanings, and then a woman who supports Indigenous people for health in the community, not necessarily with developmental disabilities, but all people with of Indigenous backgrounds. She helps access health in the community. So tying those things all together, really, I think it just was a starting point for my students. So I thank you for adding on to that for us today. And I think if people are interested in putting that sort of thing, if they haven't already, into their course, it's just a matter of making those connections.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Stephanie and Joel. It's been wonderful seeing your program. Thank you for spending your time with us. I do hope your goal of 1 to 5 years comes to fruition. I think it's just wonderful, and we certainly appreciate you taking the time to explain your services to us. Thank you.
thank you for having us. And I believe somebody put in the chat our name, which is located on Facebook. So if you would like to go on there and like us and follow us, that would be great. And the other thing I just want to make a comment before we leave is that whenever you're in the area and you happen to be near Community Living Six Nations, we welcome you to pop in for a quick visit, and Joel will be there to give you a tour because he loves doing that. But if you're ever in the area and you want to come see what we're doing there, we welcome you at any time. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I was just going to invite everybody as well to come anytime, to give us a call, and there's always somebody here. We would definitely give a great tour. And to all the students out there, this is a career. This is one of the, I've done this job for 35 years now, and I graduated in the 1980s. So it's a great opportunity, the greatest job you ever have. Work is always work. Wherever you're working, there's always troubles. And when you're working with community living or with people with developmental disabilities, sitting down with those individuals will take that stress away and keep you employed and working for as long as I have. 35 years with community living.
Congratulations.